Hi, everybody. My name is Darrell Brown, and I'm truly your host here at Success After Pain podcast. I will be sharing a part of my story today, going back to my childhood, where it all began. Unconsciously aware, I didn't realize as a child the mishaps I encountered started way before the drugs was even chosen. My mom gave me away at the age of 6 months old and kept my other siblings, not knowing that my tragic, redundant lifestyle would lead me to prisons and jails all over America, not realizing broken promises and broken relationships time and time again stem from unconscious pain that I had encountered. You see, habits and pains we don't face or address, eventually we will expose it in some form or fashion. For years, my grandparents gave me a life that any kid would dream of. At the age of 7, my mom came and spent the night with me at my grandparents' house. My mother never spent another night, as I can recall. I would see her from time and time again throughout my childhood. As a child, I was happy to see my mom just like any other child would be. Nevertheless, something started to plague me as a child. Why my mom didn't keep me like she kept my other siblings? Why didn't my mom didn't support me or come to any of my school events? So around 12 years old, I started to experiment with marijuana with other family members on my mother's side, uncles, aunties, not realizing at this time I was opening up something I wasn't ready for. This is where the patterns of addiction started to set in. Lying, cheating, and stealing started as a child, which progressed over into my adult life. I had an older cousin at the time who I looked up to as a big homie. Rest in peace, Piggy. He was like a role model to me at the time as a kid growing up in the suburbs, by himself with a grandmother and a grandfather that was trying to give me the best life as a child would want it. I found my cousin who I could consult with, and him and I drew, real close together before, he deceased. I would go to school with a backpack filled with weed and coke. Then eventually the crack cocaine epidemic merged and life wasn't ever the same for me again. I started to date older women around 13 years old. At this time, I'm skipping classes and eventually school to entertain my addictive lifestyle. Cutting school, going back to the malls, to steal merchandise to come back to the hood to sell my daily shipment. By the time I turned 15, I had already went from smoking marijuana to drinking alcohol and sniffing cocaine and lacing my joints. We were called back then. Now they call them blunts. Let's be mindful, at this time, I didn't see this as becoming a nightmare. It was fun in the beginning, at least I thought. I didn't realize I was hiding my pain through my addictive behaviors and telling myself it was all right. Addiction is so common and baffling and insidious. You can tell yourself at any given time that I can do just one, not realizing that one is too many and a thousand is never enough. This is a part of my story when, like I shared a few minutes ago, in the beginning, it was very fun, to go places, to pull up, find somebody, rolling up a joint, sniffing a line of cocaine. We just looked at that was like, a greeting to a party, not knowing that, it would stem from the pain that we first encounter as kids. Even when from birth, I didn't realize that when my mom gave me away at such an early age, it would have affected me years to come. Many years I can recall of telling people that, man, I was all right. I'm all right. You know, my grandparents gave me the best life they could up until the age of about 16 when I started going back and forth to jails and prisons. Um, they just seen that, at that time I wasn't going to change. Jail or either death was going to be my only experience. Maybe at some point that I could have a chance at getting it right. Um, but still today, when we look back at that time, um, I would say that it was great in the beginning, until years later when I realized that the habits and patterns that I didn't address. That's why in the rooms they share, fear is to face everything and recover. If I don't take a look back at my atrocities or my mishaps, or shortcomings, then I would feel that there's no need to change anything. One must be honest first. In the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, they tell you honesty, open mindedness, and willingness. When you gather those three things, 9 times out of 10, you're well on your way for recovery. See, I gotta uncover so I can recover. Like I shared in one of my posts before, videos before. Uh, Redemption comes first. Recovery comes first, then redemption. There's no way that you can make it to a higher level of understanding until you get the basic necessities. First, it starts with, the knowledge, then the wisdom, then the understanding comes. Um, so if you're new, I suggest that you stick and stay. Get you a sponsor, get you some phone numbers. Like they told me, dial them, don't file them, and find you a meeting. Make 90 meetings in 90 days. These are the suggestions that are suggested in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. If it wasn't for the rooms, I would have never made it to the point that I've made it in life. And like I said, I will be sharing more of my life story. This is just the beginning of some of the things that after doing some step work, I can go back and I can basically be able to share my experience, strength, and hope with somebody that needs that attention. They told me the only way that I can keep what I got to give it away, and by giving it away, hoping that someone will find something that I'm sharing or something that I may say that can change their life. Addiction in the United States at this time is at an all times high, man. And it's not so much of a color thing anymore. Everybody is using. And see, this is the catch. Most people think that it's just a drug. It's not just a drug. See, the addictive behavior starts way before the drug even takes place. See, that's where it's sadly mistaken. We feel like if we put the drugs down, then we recover. Nah, sadly mistaken again. The mere reflection of the disease lies dormant. That's why we become self-centered as victims, because we have the slightest idea that it's not so much about the substance, it's about our thinking. See, in order to recover, we got to change the way we think. See, if we don't change the way we think, we will remain in bondage. See, first you got to change your thinking, that upside thinking. You got to tell yourself, I got to take somebody else's suggestions other than myself. Because, see, myself led me to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. It gave me a seat beside predecessors that, opened their arms with warm welcomings when I first was introduced to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, because they told me at that time they would love me till I learned to love myself. See, I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to love myself, and even though you couldn't tell me I didn't love myself at the time, I thought I did. But that's the insanity of the disease of addiction. How many of you know that doing something and expecting the same results every time is insanity? Well, most of us, that's our story. When we repeatedly to do the things that we do and end up with the same results and keep doing them, then we're insane. So they told me that if nothing changes, nothing changes. See, in order to change, I gotta first uncover, like I just shared. I gotta get good honest with me before I can be honest with you or anyone else. I gotta be honest with me first. See, it starts, begins, and ends with me. Until that, then 9 times out of 10, see, I gotta know and understand this here. Absent doesn't equal recovery. I can stop, but can I stay stopped? See, that's the $1,000,000 question. I never had a problem with starting something and stopping, but stay and stop. That's where the problem comes. Having the knowledge is one thing, but the application of it, that's the whole essence of knowing and being able to apply what you know. Until then, it's just some words. You sounding good, might be looking good, might be smelling good. See, because we got to understand also, we deal with a feeling disease. I want to feel good. I want to smell good. I want to look good. I want to sound good. Well, they told me I need to take a look at that. Anything that I gravitate towards to get self gratification instantly, I need to take a look at that. See, because feeling good, sounding good, and not being good on the inside, there's an unbalance there. In order for me to do the things that I need to do and lead by example, not only just for Darrell, but for my family as well. My sons. I got to be accountable for my actions. I got to teach them the things that led me down the wrong path so they can see that this is not, the path that I want to chose. That was another thing with me. I have 2 sets of kids. My first sets of kids in their 30s. My second set of kids or adolescents and kids, a child and an adolescent, soon be teenager. But the thing is that my first set of kids, even down to my kids today, I never hide anything from them. I never sat right in their company to get high with them, but around them. But they knew that Dad struggled with addiction throughout his life. But they was so happy when they saw that Dad could do something else other than sabotage his future with drugs, with jails, prisons. Today it's beautiful to go back and play the tape back and see that, I'm a changed person. Remember, addiction is not just about the substance. I share this all the time. Only 10% of it is the drug. The other 90% lies within me. I carry me everywhere I go. Until I realize that a substance is just a mere fraction of the disease. Until I admit that I got a problem, which is the first step. The second step is basically saying that, I believe, in a power greater than can restore me to sanity. Now, mind you, the Rooms of Narcotics Anonymous is not a religious program. So you don't have to have Jehovah, Allah, whomever you may call your God, which is your choice. But suggested that you find a power greater than. See, our best thinking land us in a situation that we couldn't bail ourselves out. So this is what we got to understand today, that I got to take somebody else's suggestions. I can't just take Darrell's suggestion, because Darrell, greatest thinking, land me in jails many, many times. Broken relationships, broken promises, lying, cheating, and stealing. First, for myself, I would put things up after I got that paycheck, and or I would give it to someone and say, "Hey, hold this for me." And before the night was up, I was back asking for it again, or going in their pocketbooks when they went to sleep, and taking it out of there, and making it seem as though I didn't know what happened. What did you do with it? These are the games and the insanity that an addict experience. We must know and understand not only that it affects us as a person, but it affects everybody around you. Everybody needs some sort of therapy after dealing with a fool like myself. And I can say that today because, when we're in that state of mind, we are some hard people to deal with. They told me in the rooms, we are sick. You know what I mean? So today, man, I got to be honest with me first before I can be honest with anybody else. Hopefully, sharing a part of my life story with you today can give you a little more courage to open up to someone, to find a meeting in your area, and attend, man, and just take one day at a time. They say just for the day, man. It's a miracle. The newcomer is the greatest person in the rooms. You know what I mean? Everybody experience strength and hope is helpful, but that new person that realized that he or she is an addict can walk into the rooms for the first time. It's nothing more beautiful than that. Again, if you got anything from what I shared with you, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Success After Pain podcast. Truly your host, Darrell Brown. I will be airing another part of my story in a few days. Stay tuned. See you on the next episode. Peace.